is what I showed you. Okay, so I pop it on my hand. You can see it's not huge, but this is the medium size. What I'm going to do, actually, let's put it on a ruler. Right, so that's sitting on a ruler. I haven't had time to do the largest, but you can make these whatever size you like. So all you need are squares of fabric, and 2 squares, in fact, the inside, the outer fabric and the lining fabric. And what will make it easier is if you can divide the number by 3. So like this one was a 12-inch square, and divided by 3 is 4. 4 is the magic number, if you like, and that is the size of the square that you cut out at each of the 4 corners. So I'll show you in a moment. We have a square, we cut a corner square out in each of the 4 corners, and it's 1/3 of the size of your big square. So this one started off a 12-inch square. This one, so you can see the difference, started off as a 9-inch square. And this one started off as a 6-inch square. So you can see they're sitting on a ruler so that you can see the difference in size. Let's put in that way. Okay, so let's have a look. You can see how dinky. This one here was the first one I made, and that is the same size as the medium. So this one I called dinky. This is small, this is medium, and the large one I haven't done. So this one is based on a 6-inch square. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. The corners will be 2 inches square that you cut out. This one started off as a 9-inch square. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. So we cut out a 3-inch square. This one is started off as a 12, as did this one. So I cut out 4-inch squares. The largest one starts with a 15-inch, so you cut out 5-inch squares. But if you wanted to make a 24-inch square to start off with and cut 8-inch squares out of each corner, it'll be exactly the same design, but a lot bigger. So that has, perhaps that's whet your appetite, or it has, now where's my bit of paper gone? I bet I've wafted, oh yes, I've wafted it onto the floor. Right, let's dip you down and I'll just show you. There we go. Let's just go down here and we'll just turn that just a little bit. There we are. So I have got myself a little bit of paper, which obviously is white on white, is not the best. So I've cut myself a square here, and that square is, I think I did it 4.5. Yes. So that square is 4.5 inches square. So 4.5 divided by 3 is 1.5. So all I would say to do, I've got the ruler in the corner of this square, 1.5, 1.5, and on the back of one of your fabrics, I would draw that 1.5. Then I'm lining up right on those edges, 1.5, 1.5, and I'm not going to cut this paper. Okay, so whatever your main square starts off as, you will cut from the square, from the corners, a square which is 1/3. So if this was 6 inches, these would be 2-inch squares. So, well, I'm going to rip these, but you would just cut these out with scissors. There we are. I'm doing this just because I haven't got a pair of paper scissors, and I'm not going to cut directly with fabric scissors purely to show you this bit. You'll know exactly what I mean. I didn't want to waste any fabric either. There we go. So let's just pull that down there. So what you'll have when you do it with fabric will be perfectly straight, but you can see we have a cross. We have a cross. So as I said, whatever size square you have, you will want one in outer fabric and one in lining fabric. So I have already got my fabric. So here is my fabric. Okay. Now, when I cut my 12-inch squares, I actually laid my fabrics right sides together, and I cut my squares at the same time. So I cut through the fabric, and I'm just lining that up. I cut through both fabrics, and then I know that my fabric is exactly, or both fabrics are exactly the same size. And then I cut through both layers for cutting the squares out as well. It doesn't matter if they move. Mine's moved a little bit. And I'm just going to put a pin through here just to hold it together. But before I pop them together, I actually fused some fusible fleece to the wrong side. Let's just line this one up as well. Just make sure they are lined up. Yeah, apart from that one's not perfect, but that will be fine. So this was my outer fabric. I have put a piece of fusible fleece. I fused it to just one of these, one of edge to edge. It could have been that one, wouldn't matter at all, but it's basically just going the whole way through. Now, this one here is a tub, right? This was my very first start of doing it, of making one of these. Number one, I forgot to add the ribbon, which I've nearly done now, having pinned them together. I'm glad I said that. But I've got fusible fleece in all of it. And it didn't want fusible fleece in all of it. Hence, I've changed it a little bit. So let us just take away these pins, because before we do any sewing, unless you want a tub, what we need to do is just work on the outer piece. So there's my lining piece. Set it aside. And after we have fused our fusible fleece, which is, I think I've put 1/2 inch smaller than the width and the length, so it got a little gap around the edges. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it's not exactly in the right place, as long as there's a little bit of a gap at the side, all well and good. So the first thing we do before we start stitching it together is to add some ribbon. So I have some ribbon, and we're going to stitch some ribbon the whole way down here that extends past our fabric. And it is going to be on the piece that has the fusible fleece on, okay? So just make sure, I nearly did that earlier. Is that mucky? No, that's just a mark. So I'm just taking this past so that you've got enough. I think I put some measurements in the PDF, in the files, but at the end of the day, as long as I would do at least 6 inches to each side, so that you've got enough room to be able to tie a bow. Now, what I would do now, so remembering that it must be on the piece with the fusible fleece, center your ribbon along this edge. Measure it if you want to. I'm just going to be very naughty and guesstimate. And I'm going to put a pin all the way down here to the other side. There we are, that's central as well. Put a pin here, and I think I'll put a pin in the middle. Depending on your ribbon, this is quite good, and it doesn't move, but some ribbons might bow, so it went a little bit wiggly. And what we're going to do, we aren't going to stitch the whole way up. I'll put a pin just there. I should take the pins out before I get to them. But I'd put a pin, I would do about 1 inch down, or at least 1/2 inch down from that top edge here, and similarly here. So we're going to do a rectangle the whole way round. So let's just go in just a little bit closer. So if I start, oh, get into there. What earth is my thread doing there? Oh, let's have a look. It's doing something weird there. Let's just have a look. It's got stuck around something. What have we got stuck around? There we are. We're out now. That's it. That's typical, isn't it? There we go. Out the way, and let's just put our bobbin back in. There we are. And pop that down, and let us start here. So I'm starting about an inch down from that end, and then I'm just going to stitch down here. I'm just using 2.5. I don't know why that's making that noise, but perhaps because it's sewing through the fusible fleece. Okay. Right. Let's have a look, see on the other side. No, it's stitching fine. Wow. Sounds a bit squeaky. Saying that, I should perhaps, does need a little bit of oil, I think, because with these Juki machines that are semi-industrial, you should oil them on a semi-regular basis. So I've just cut that thread and cut that little bit off. So we've got our ribbon attached. I've just gone down both sides, and I'm just going to have a look. Oh no, I think I popped. Did I pop my oil? I did pop my oil in there, and I'm just going to be very naughty. And let's see, I think it's this one. Number 1, number 2. Oh, is it that one? Oh, goodness, I never. There we are, 3. And we'll put one down here as well. Let's just. Bit of fluff in there. And I know it's definitely one down there. So, most other machines, you won't need to oil it because you've got an oil that is slow release within your machine, and you don't need to do that. So let's hope that will make it go a little bit better. So now the next thing, we don't want these bits of ribbon to get caught in our sewing. How do I know that? Or why do I say that? Because it happened to me. So pin your ribbon out of the way. So I just take it all the way back to the middle and put a pin there. Just remember it's there. I haven't actually stuck the pin in my finger doing that. So hopefully we'll be fine. Then we take our lining fabric and place it right side down onto our outer fabric. Okay, so let's just line these up. Just make sure that it is, I'll put a few pins in just to hold that together. But if you have cut them out together, they should be exactly the right size. So let's just put a pin there, and similarly, just make sure that lines up there, because the fusible fleece will pull it a little bit out of shape. But let's put that one, and I'll leave that one, and we'll start on this. So the next thing we're going to do, we're just going to stitch. Let me turn it this way so you can see better. We're going to stitch along the top here, and here, and here, and here. So it's just along these raw edges, line them up. I would have a 2 at the moment, a 2 as my stitch length. And as I say, just stitch across all of these short edges. 1/4 inch seam allowance. It wouldn't matter if you're doing 1/8 of an inch, which I've done with some, but 1/4 of an inch will be absolutely fine for this. And this one as well. Just doing a little reverse at the beginning. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last one here. Just making sure they line up perfectly. And as I say, they should do, because we cut them all at the same time. Okay, so we'll take my pins out here, because we're now going to turn this to the right side. So we don't, at the minute, we don't stitch any other. We're just going to turn this through, mind the pin here, but that is nice and easy to be able to turn that through. Okay, so then what we need to do is press along here. I should have got my seam roller out, because that would be so much easier. But instead, I'm just going to put a little pin just there. And then I'm just going to push this out. I'm going to roll it between my fingers, actually, so that I've got the seam right on the edge. And we could just, there we are. That has pressed out really quite nicely. So roll that between my fingers like that. And then press it either with an iron on the ironing board, or I'm just going to run my nails along there. But just make sure when that pulls out, that is perfectly, you want your seam to be right on the edge there, like that. Because what we're going to do now, we're going to top stitch along here. So we're going to top stitch, let's go this way. So we'll top stitch along here. Now, I'm only going to do, there's one of two ways. You can top stitch along each of these outside edges and then come in after that. But we're also going to stitch around here to hold these two layers together. So because I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch round here, I'm doing 1/8 an inch at the top. So I will just increase that to 2.5, and it's just narrowly in that top edge. So before I get to there, just pulling that over a little bit, there we go. And then I'm just stitching, as I say, about 1/8 of an inch in from the edge and around. So I'm going, the instructions is how I made the other ones. I did the 4 side edges, these pieces first, and then I went back and I stitched the sides. But really it's quicker to go all the way around. So in effect, whoops, that's gone too far. In effect, that's top stitching along here, but around here it is the stay stitching or the holding stitch, just to hold this all together. Okay, so, and I tell you that little bit because on the first one I didn't do stay stitching around here, and guess what, the fabric slipped. So the finished the tub, I think it was, didn't, or rather had bits of fabric sticking out on the outside, which obviously we didn't want. There we are. But so it doesn't take any longer. It just seems to take longer because I'm doing, instead of doing just 4 of this top edge, I'm just going the whole way round. And there we go. So we're on the last one now. And believe you me, this little bit of holding them together, the pieces together, is well worth it. And just line those edges up and everything is going to fit perfectly. The other thing, by doing it all in one, we've only got 4 ends of thread as opposed to, or rather one end, as opposed to, we've got, you'd have 4. So it's better to cut all your little ends away now, otherwise they poke out on your finished. There we go. You've just got, when you finished it, and you have to go round and try and just cut those little bits off. Okay, so we have that all together. Now, unusual, but if you think French seam, you'll be right. What we're going to do now is we're going to put lining sides together. So this is our outside fabric, but we are going to line up the top edge like that. And we're just going to line it down to the bottom. This is going to be the base here. So it just fits really nicely down to that point. And we're going to stitch from this top edge, so the open edge here, which is the top of the box or the gift holder, down to here. And we're going to stitch on that same line, actually. Use that basting line as your guideline. So we're not going to do 1/4 of an inch here. We're going to do basically about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to pop that under, make sure that top edge aligns, and I'm going to reverse at the top, and you can put pins down here, but that's a short seam and it lines up so well. And just right down to the bottom and just reverse there and cut off. So then the next one round here, fold that together and align that top edge, and you'll see that goes right down to the base, lines up perfectly. So it's just the top edge is the most important. If it's a little bit longer at the bottom, I wouldn't worry about it. It's going to be hidden, but just a little reverse there, and then just flatten that down so that little end point there, line those raw edges up and use that stitch line, which I don't think you can see, but line up the stitch, stitch down that stitch line, and everything will be perfect. You won't need to do any trimming. Okay, so I've lined that part up as well, and line those two together there, and it flattens down quite nicely and doesn't do any damage to it, the project at all. So just line those edges, stitch on the basting line that I did. The other little thing I like to do when I'm reversing, don't reverse off again. Reverse back and allow your cut off stitches to be further up the seam. So let me just show you here. So we've started stitching, I've got those lined up. I'll go all the way to the bottom there, and then I'll reverse 2 or 3. When I come back, there's still, can you see, I'm about 1/4 of an inch from this end. That way, your stitches are halfway up the seam. They're not off this end here, which when you go to trim it, you can quite often trim the fabric as well. So there's one there. So again, I would just trim these off as you go. Otherwise, you'll find the pesky little threads, which will be quite irritating. And similarly, at the top edge, you can't get away with this being at the top. We've done that one, and just this one here. So get rid of those little bits. Okay, next one, turn it. So now, where the pin is, grab hold of that, and then pull the rest of it out. And just be wary of that pin down there. Poke out these corners here. So we've turned it to the wrong side. Poke out these little corners. French seam is the word. Can't see any, or I'm not looking at any comments. Would it work with blanket stitch on those edges? No, we're not doing that. We're doing French seams. So we're not going to have raw edges on those seams. So we've turned it. Now we are going to fold that. So again, so that the seam comes right on the edge. And this time I'm going to start again from the top down to the bottom, 1/4 of an inch seam. Okay, so this time not the guiding line, but we are going to do Well, the machine's going better now after it's oiled. There we are. So a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but reverse and don't. That's it. So I reversed to there, not right to the bottom. So again, push that seam out. You can see how I don't need to have any pins. Just push that seam right to the edge, pop it under, keep our thread out of the way, and down this little side as well, and reverse and stitch, clip rather, and then again just push those out. Now the reason we did that 1/8 of an inch seam before is because this 1/4 of an inch seam is going to take those raw edges in between this seam here. So we've got no trimming back to do, and we won't have any threads hanging out of the edge. Okay, and then the last side here, like this. It's quite quick, isn't it? And not difficult, because we keep turning it from one side to the other. So reverse at the top. I've got my seam right on the edge. I can feel that pin. So just make sure, there we go. That pin is sticking out there. Right, so now we're going to take it out in a minute anyway. So clip that thread, clip that thread, clip that thread. That one we did. And then at the tops, obviously where we started, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So now we have all of our raw edges enclosed. So again, let's just grab that pin, because I haven't taken it out yet, and pull it through to the right side. I'm going to take this pin out now to release those ribbons. Okay. Yes. So yes, we have the French seam. So just push those out. Push that out. You see there's no little bits of thread hanging on those edges or poking out, because we did those 2 different widths of seam. Okay. So that is quite nice, but I think the finishing touch is now to top stitch down here. So we'll do the same that we did just now previously. Keep squeezing. Oh, look, there's no, that's gone, that's it. Just push that, roll it between your fingers, the seam, so that the seam is right on the edge. And then I'm going to top stitch down here. Now, very close to the edge, not even an 1/8 of an inch, but I'm also, here's our top edge. I'm not going to start until just down. That is the bulkiest part, just there, because there's more. That was the reason for not having fusible fleece in there, but there is still a little bit. So you can start just below that. It's about 1/4 of an inch there. So I'm just going to pop this under the machine. And I am basically, it is about, as I say, a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to go right on that edge. I am going to reverse as well, and just hold that all the way down here, right on the edge and to the bottom, and reverse at the bottom, or not quite at the bottom, just above it. And then let's push that one back. Keep getting a little bit of thread now. I've put it in my mouth. Okay, so just roll that between your fingers, and again onto that top edge, and a couple of stitches reversed, and then right on the very edge, reverse and trim. Roll it between your fingers. I can see you having loads of these. And the other thing you might say, which I thought, I am going to do something else with those little cutout squares. seem like a little bit of a waste. But I'm going to make sure I do something with those. So watch this space. An alternative could be to make the where we had started with a square and then we cut pieces out, cut the squares out. The alternative would be to sew 5 squares together so there is no waste. But then you would have a few seams throughout. And I thought this was quite a nice way. I'm just going to go around and clip all these bits of thread off. This was just a lovely way to do it with a square and trim those pieces out. So it's more about turning the project inside out. Clip that one. And stitching down the sides and trimming the threads off. But very quick. I think I've got one more. Yeah, there's one more just there. So get all those gone. And let's just take that up a little bit there. Then, can you see how that stands up? It's more shapely now that it's got that structure here. And what you'll feel is where the ribbon is has got the fusible fleece, so it's more, it's strong, it's structured. These sides are just 2 bits of fabric, so you can fold that in, okay, and just fold that and just give that a little finger crease. You could press that. If you wanted to, you could actually stitch down there just to hold it, but I think it's enough to just pop those side edges together and then give that a little crease there. You can see how that already stays in shape, and then you can just pull your ribbon together and that just pulls in neatly, and tie your little bow. So, and I will, so there's my, just pull that through, and we'll pull it a little bit bigger, not quite as big on there. And what I like to do here, I like to have my ribbons the same length, and fold my ribbon together, and then, whoops, no, that way. I'm just going to do a little, can you see, take out a little triangle to give me that neat look. So if we go from the side of the ribbon into the fold, and then we can get a ribbon that has got a nice little bow looking. So there's the side. It's very neat and shapely, but I think it's quite cool. Simple but effective indeed. And it can be reused again and again. But there's all sorts of things, especially this little dinky one. You can see there. I think that would be wonderful to have a ring in there, or a necklace, you know, a little gift. Wouldn't that be beautiful? It's so, so dinky. Look, it's the length of my, or no, it's shorter than my fingers. Really quite cute. So, isn't it so? Isn't it so? So hasn't really taken me very long at all to do that, has it? So here it is. So in another colourway. So I'm trying to find things for you, projects for you to use your Christmas fabric with, because obviously you all bought lots of Christmas fabric the other week, last week in fact. No, the week before. What did I do Christmas this? Yeah, I did Christmas this, yeah. Only last Thursday. Oh my goodness. Time is just, well, not standing still. But here's some lovely little, for you to be able to, a nice little project for you to be able to, I know some of you had this one. I just got some little scrappy bits that I managed to find. But as I say, this one is middle size, is medium. And where is my little? So that one is little, you can see there. And then the dinkiest one, as I say, was this one here. And I will get the larger one made, but it's just been time. You could hang it on the tree. Yes. What a great idea. So what you could do, rather than have these ends just, the end was just hanging off. There's the end of the ribbon. If you tucked it under like that before you stitched, you'd have a loop. And then if you had a loop at each end, you could put one loop through the other. Or, no, what actually, when you do, if you did a small loop at one end and a larger loop at the other, and then you tuck the large loop through there, and the larger loop hangs onto your tree. Yes, Janet, you do need to make these, don't you? So I still can't see any comments on the phone, but let's have a look, see what the dinky one is. Dinky, isn't it? Thank you, Pippa. And Margot, let's see if you've got any other nice, very usable. It is, yes. Oh, thank you, Sandra and Nikki. Great for presents. That was the idea of it, so that you put your little gift in there. You might be able to get some bargain priced gifts, which you think, I only spent £2.50 on that, but pop it in here and you got a gift that's worth £10 to £15, I would say. It looks so much more classy and elegant, doesn't it? And as you say, Jane, any occasion doesn't have to be just for Christmas. Birthday gift can go in there, can't it? Christening gifts, wouldn't that be lovely? Yes, indeed. Okay. Yes, I know. I didn't mention French seam, did I, to start off with? But if you wanted to leave the raw edges and oversew them or blanket stitch by hand, you could do. But I hadn't got any intention of it. Was just the way of making it, because obviously the inside, let's open this one up. It's as good inside as outside. You see, look, there's no raw edges. There's no the only seams are down the side, and they are encasing all the raw edges. So it's all lovely and neat. You could do it the other way around if you wanted to, but there is nothing to hide with these. So, let's see, I think I got back to there about the blanket stitch. But yes, you were getting ahead of what I was about to do. And I bet you were thinking, oh, those raw edges. Yeah, I know. I'd be thinking the same. Now, that reminds me. There was a lady on one of the shopping channels, don't know her name, but she was using Bondaweb, and she said, I think I was going to say the presenter asked her, do you use steam with that? And she said, oh yes, absolutely, plenty of steam with your Bondaweb. And I thought, no, that is one of the things that I always say to you, is that if you're using the one that I love to use, steamer seam, then yes, that's different. Steamer seam, love steam. And I think I was only saying the other day with the mats, with the leaf coasters, steamer seam, you can steam it and steam it. If you overheat, it doesn't ruin the adhesive. With Bondaweb, you purely want heat, no steam, purely heat. And also don't overheat it either, because it will disintegrate and you'll have no fusion there at all. So on that occasion, don't listen to what she was saying. I don't know how she's managed to get such lovely projects done without them falling apart. Saying that, I think they were mostly stitched afterwards, so you wouldn't notice. But believe you me, no steam with Bondaweb, purely heat. Okay. Because so many people will listen to that and think, oh yeah, I'll do that. And especially if they were going to just do it as an applique with no stitching on, what they would find is that applique will fall off at some point in time, because it doesn't allow the adhesion fully to hold the layers together. Right, let's have a look. Oh, there's Mavis. Hello, Mavis. Thank you, everybody. I try to bring you great ideas, Caroline. But I must admit, when I do dip into different programs, and I've said it before, but you don't see much that's different these days. I mean, I don't think I've got no intention of going back on TV. Too much time, really. So that's not going to happen. And these small projects, I think people would like to see them and know how to make them, which is what all of you in this group, you get all of this, because we don't always want to make huge projects or massive quilts, but we do some, don't we? And we do some bags and we do these small projects. And I think the variety of the time that the projects take, I think is what makes it really, really good and interesting for you all, so that you don't have to do the biggest quilt. The one behind me that sits there needs finishing off. That was quite big, but we did that over a number of weeks. We do a lot of small ones. We do the bags, which take a bit longer, but as long as there's variety, I think you'll all enjoy. And you're right, Gita, it will make any gift look very expensive. Okay. So, we're getting there now. So we've done quite well today with our little gift holders. So I know that fabric all sold out, but I had to keep a little bit for myself, didn't I? But I hope you all will enjoy using your fabrics to make your little Christmas gift makes, and doesn't take as much time as my festive gift box. You remember that one? That was one of the very first projects I took onto TV, was the festive gift box, and I sold, I don't know how many kits and instructions, hundreds if not thousands. I mean, not 10,000, but I bet 3,000-4,000, I bet. So yeah. Anyhow, this one is a lot quicker, and I think you would actually be able to do this purely with the video and no instructions, but the instructions are in the files for you. So I will say, and I will mention again on Thursday, please, please, please download, print, save your PDFs, because it is November the 1st on Saturday. I probably won't take them down straight away, because you've got until Tuesday when the first thing will go into the group after that. So I'll give you the weekend, but there is a deadline and I don't want you to miss that. So download your PDFs. Okay, I will. You go and enjoy your dinner, and I shall enjoy mine too. Right, so all I'll say is take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I won't be with you tomorrow, but on Thursday we've got the monthly giveaway, which is early. It should be on Friday, but I know with the pumpkins I've got, and I've hung my pumpkin coasters up on the curtains, I shall have lots of little trick-and-treaters, and Martin's not going to be in, so I thought we'll do the monthly giveaway on the Thursday at 6 o'clock, followed by the make that I'm going to be doing, which is this one, isn't it? Is it this one, the Chicago, or the Flying Geese log cabin? This is what we're going to do. See how big it is? That's what we're doing on Thursday, and you'll be surprised how easy, straightforward that is too. Anyhow, I will see you then. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye for now.